Hello.
Hail and well met adventurers. Welcome back to another thrilling episode of Hero Sheets. I forgot how the show works, but I'm your host, Daria. I use she, her pronouns. I've got ADHD and dyslexia, and we changed everything. I took a month off, and then we came back, and everything's different. I got 4 amazing guests instead of 1, which is, what is that, like 3 more than normal. And I'm gonna stop talking, and I'm gonna let them introduce themselves. Starting with Sophia, you want to talk about who you are and what you do?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Sophia. She/they pronouns. uh, I um, I DM a show on the channel called Twilight Grove, which is a homebrew Feywild setting, which is kind of like um, just as much like Fey elements I could put into a game, and trying to make it work, and just doing whatever my players wants, basically. Oh, my CC stopped working. Why? Oh, was I just too quiet? Maybe. Um, Hopefully that's better. Should be. Yeah. Can't you? Sorry, I should have maybe checked after I was done. Anyway, yeah. I write music for your tabletop RPG characters. When my commissions are open, they are not open right now because I need to finish them.
Valid mood. Uh,
That's
I
me.
was gonna call on Joe next, but they have disappeared. So Rue.
But they're back.
It's too late.
Hi, I'm Rue. I use he or they pronouns, and I play Layla on Mousecapades, which is finished up technically, but we're doing a fireside chat next week to sort of end everything. And outside of that, I'm Ilana Knight 13 on Twitter, and I do art commissions and sewing commissions. And I wrote a horror powered by the apocalypse tabletop game that I really am proud of.
Ooh, we might have to talk about that.
Yeah.
But Joe, since you've returned, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Joe. I am the cat in charge on Twitter, TikTok, and pretty much anywhere else. I go by they, them pronouns, and I am the former dungeon master of the Mousecapades mini-series that aired on Heroes Without Limits here. And yeah, the Fireside Chat, our little epilogue special episode 9 is going to be next week on Friday. Other than that, on my Twitter, I do cosplay, I talk about tabletop RPGs, and I am super into theater. And there's also a moth in my room, so it's really got my attention. But it's real big and pretty, I promise it's worth it.
Did you release it?
I did. I had it in a cup, and then I was like, it shouldn't be in a cup, and so it's a free roam moth now.
I want to explore the concept free roam moth also. Someone jot that down. But last but not least, Vince, do you want to introduce yourself? You've been on
I
here
mean,
the
I
most.
feel intimidated following the moth, but I'll have to try and make it work. Hi, I'm Vince. I use he, him pronouns. Let's see, what do I do right now?
Oh no, my internet went out.
Oh no, you're good.
No.
Oh,
we can hear you.
My internet is okay. No.
You're back. You're back.
You're back.
Okay.
You're frozen,
Awesome.
but we can hear you.
Nothing is fucked. Nothing is fucked. All right. Anyways, as I was saying, I am a voiceover artist. I am a professional GM. I am a games designer and consultant. On Twitter, I am at Dichotomous Prime, and currently I am designing a magic system based on linguistics in Unconquered, which is a bronze punk old school revolution game, and as well I am one of many awesome writers who are going to be featured on the Kickstarter for Mnemonic, a Weaver's Almanac, starting August 15th. Most recently, you might know me for my threads, amongst the others, in the Tabletop Chop Shop, in which we talk about concepts in game design, deconstructing ways in which we approach the process of designing games, and challenging those in hopes to increase people's comfort and literacy with trying to make their own stuff. So
A lot. You're doing a
Nice.
lot. To summarize it poorly, Vince is up to a lot. Like I said, I told everyone before this that I kind of forgot how my own show works, but it's fine because I think I do that every month. So we're just gonna hop in with our only audience submitted question so far, which comes from our Discord server. Leather Jacket Bear asked, here's a question that will require some clarifying. If applicable, what is your favorite fan-made game based off of an existing game? Example would be Final Fantasy D20 or full Pathfinder 1E conversion. If anyone has a response to that, I would love to hear it, because I personally don't know.
The only one that I can think of right off the top of my head, I already mentioned the last time that I was on Hero Sheet.
It's been 2 months. It's fine.
It's the Destiny video game series, Destiny 1 and Destiny 2. Someone made a tabletop version of it, and it just got, I think, out of its beta, and it's or maybe it's in version 2 of the beta or whatever. But it's essentially if you want to play Destiny as a tabletop RPG. Oh no.
Hmm? Whose internet is going out? What?
Oh, it's mine. My internet keeps my everything keeps freezing, but it's fine.
It's fine as long as you
Someone
don't
else
drop.
designate a second in command before the captain dies.
I think that would be you, Vince, because you're very good at talking. Does anyone else have an answer? I kind of remember what Joe's
I kind of blanked on what the question was.
So if there's any tabletop conversion of a video game or just a game that you like in general, or a thing.
Well, I've only played D&D and The Witcher, so it's obviously The Witcher tabletop RPG, and I love it. I actually haven't played it, but I have made a character, and I kind of know how to play because I watched Silver and Steel. Yeah, Silver and Steel. Steel and Silver.
Oh. Actually, speaking
Silver
of
and Steel, you got it.
Anyway, huh?
Silver and Steel. Speaking of all the cool shows that we do on this great, wonderful show, or on this streaming site, I think I nabbed one person from every, at least one person minimum from every show that we had running. I could be wrong, but I think I did it. And Vince is my cheat card because he was in multiple shows.
Well, we don't have one from Silver and Steel except for Nova, who's doing tech.
Oh, well, you're correct. Yes, I was so close mentally. I thought I did it.
But yeah, I love the magic system in Witcher because it's not just one magic system where anyone who can cast spells has an access to their spell list and stuff like it's in D&D, but in Witcher it's there are spells, there are signs, there are incantations, there's invocations, there are probably something more, and I just love that there's so much difference and making magic actually significantly different from each classes. Hexes as well. And it's just, I love that. So, which is kind of why I want to make my own system, which kind of takes all of those forms and adding some else.
It's not a full system, but I played a dungeon crawl for D&D that was based off of the dungeons in Ocarina of Time.
Ooh.
Yeah, I had a DM who really liked Zelda, and they built a dungeon crawl that was all based off of Ocarina of Time stuff, and that was fun.
I love that.
That's so cool.
Let's see.
I want to play that.
Fan-made adaptations of specifically games or media properties in general?
I'll take media properties general.
Okay. Well, it's interesting because so many of like my friends and colleagues are game designers, so like so much of the ones that I've seen them make are inspired by one or by multiple sorts of things, and kind of the having the serial numbers filed off so you don't get sued. So inspired by a lot of things. Um, like CD Huanzan on Twitter is one of the writers on the Monster Care Squad, which is very Ghibli inspired. But for me, I'm really looking forward to looking at the Hyper Light Drifter tabletop game, because I've seen some stuff from that looks really cool. But the one that really struck me by surprise, especially since I've spent about the past 6 months reading the 3 kind of core Forged in the Dark books, is the hack Morphs in the Dark, which is an Animorphs hack of Blades in the Dark. And I was just like, interesting. And it was kind of one of those weird things where, like, you know, you envision yourself as like the judge in the courtroom and be like, you may proceed, counselor. And just kind of like that very kind of, this looks weird, but I respect the ambition and I want to see where it goes. And in a lot of ways, it makes a lot of sense in terms of the ways that skills and everything are apart, like partitioned in Forged in the Dark games. So yeah, I really like that, both as a kid who grew up with Animorphs and as someone who's been digging into that family of systems. But yeah, that's my answer for that.
I guess I could do a shameless self-plug, because my
Yes.
horror system is rooted in the lore of the Magnus Archives, which is a horror podcast. It doesn't involve any actual spoilers or anything from the podcast, but it is rooted in that universe. So there are like fear eldritch entities that run the world, and the whole purpose is that you are a team of researchers, and you have been given like statements and cases. You have to solve which entity is causing it, and then choose whether or not you want to help the people involved. Like, you don't. It's a very morals are up to your character kind of system. So if your character doesn't want to help someone, they don't have to, and there are positives and negatives to either side, because going out of your way to help someone can put you in danger, but it saves them, and vice versa, and things like that.
Is it, because I've been thinking of getting into Magnus Archives, is it sounds very SCP or Control, both things I love, like the secure containment procedure, like the big wiki and stuff, which I absolutely love. The like, it's a mysterious archive of the occult and weird shit, but you have to then try to come up with a system to go like, but we're like people in suits who are accountants. So like, and it seems very much that side of things.
Yeah, it's very like, I really enjoy the podcast. That's why I made a game of it. But it's what's the word? Deceptively serial, where you think that things aren't connected and then they are.
Yes, I love just connecting things that's like that. It's so fun.
And it's am I correct in thinking that everyone here has like GM'd stuff? Like, you actually said that in this opening, didn't you? Yep, that's a thing. In that, I wonder if other folks feel the same way that I do about that. You come up with something, the players make some decisions that are vaguely related, if not completely unrelated to that, but then like the little constellations line up, and then it kind of circles back around to come up with something really weird and like unexpectedly cool. Because yeah, it sounds like that kind of circuitous, you know, oh, it's Dark Souls, and look, I found the portcullis that I couldn't get through 6 hours ago, but now I have the switch for it, and now I can get through, and everything kind of coming full circle.
Yeah. Or you're Joe, and you lay all the clues out for us, and we decide, The cat was on fire. If you can't summon a demon, just light a cat on fire and it's the same.
I promise there's an explanation, and it's not the cat was on fire.
We were so determined we would not listen to any other reason.
You were really convinced, too.
That is
You gotta watch the finale.
that's the weirdest version of like, if you can't make your own store-bought is fine.
Yeah!
Like
That's what's in my notes, because I do the note-taking for Mousecapades, and that's what's in my notes is like, if you can't summon your own aberration, store-bought fire cat is fine.
Oh god.
I will, oh my god, if we get onto the topic of Mousecapades, I can literally talk for hours and hours and hours about it, like...
Do it.
Ah!
That's kind of the show, as we talk about what we do.
Yes.
Wait, I wasn't here to talk about myself. Hold on, I wasn't filled in. On this interview show, we're talking about ourselves. Oh my god.
If you don't want to talk about your very cool campaign that everyone should go watch and finish watching, then I can ask another question, but I would
No,
appreciate...
It's
Joe, are
fine,
you
I
looking
just...
at the stream chat?
Am I? I'm not. I should, because it's
Nova asked about you making it into system agnostic. How that's going.
Yeah, it's going a lot slower than I expected it to, because I've only ever written for D&D 5e before. I'm always so scatterbrained because I can't think of talking about my own stuff like with my own motivation. It has to be like someone asks a thing. Yeah, so making it into like a system agnostic thing is simpler, and if it had been that way from the beginning, if that makes any sense. If I had gone into it being like, this is going to be system agnostic, then I can do, instead of DCs, it's like, if you want to try to do this thing, it's easy, medium, intermediate, hard, and however that translates to your system. If you're using fate die and you need to roll a solid 6 in order to make it, if you're using the D20 system, you have to roll a natural 20 to get it. Everything translates just to like easy, medium, or difficult. And going and taking out all of the D&D 5e stuff has been a lot more rewriting the entire campaign rather than like the revisionist stuff that I really wanted to do. So it's making the process take a whole lot longer than I expected it to, and it's not helped by the fact that like I was maybe 3/4 of the way with doing it when I decided that the change had to happen. And I could have made like one version that was for 5e and then one version that was system agnostic, but that seemed just kind of like a cop-out or whatever. Because the whole reason why I wanted to make it system agnostic was I'm trying to move away from 5e, and so if it was like, I'll just release it how I originally intended to, it's like, that's not me being genuine in my motivations, that's me just being like lazy about it. So it is getting delayed, and I'm probably going to expect the PDF to be out autumn-ish. I'm also collecting some resources for art because I wanted to make it look really pretty, and I am trying my hand at coding as well through the home brewery to make it look like an actual like fancy little thing. I didn't realize that was something that they had, and now I'm obsessed with it. And I have put coding into way too many aspects of my life recently. I'm also working on two choose your own adventure games that are unrelated to D&D, but I'm making them on Twine. And then there's another visual novel that I've been on and off working on like Ren'Py. And so all of those things take a different type of code, and trying to like relearn it and then come back to it. And I hate coding anyways, but it's fun, which is good, but it's just time consuming. I think that's it. It's just time consuming. It's not hard, but it's like you never want to spend 8 hours straight on a project and only get 2% of it done.
Mm-hmm.
But at least when you code, it's for fun things. Coding for science is bad. Coding in R is horrifying, and I hate it. Or the other program, the lab that I used to work in uses is command line code, which I also hate.
I've never heard of
Doesn't
that.
sound fun.
Yeah, no, that's That's deep in the archive of the computer
Yeah.
lore of the ancients. Like, yeah. That's black magic. I don't want no part of that shit. Like,
I can
Yeah,
only
it's-
code C++, C Sharp, and Game Maker language.
I only
Mhm.
know Java because it's easy.
I
That's fair.
mostly do Java. RenP does Python mostly, and then
Yeah.
Twine uses HTML and CSS, which is kind of a subset of HTML that's specifically for like changing the appearance of things, text formatting, and adding boxes and buttons and stuff.
Mm.
And all of the symbols are just so specific that you can't mix them up.
It's great being visually impaired and being like, oh, where did I miss a comma or a semicolon in
Yeah,
this
the colon versus semicolon.
8-page hell paragraph? The rubber duck
Hell
is real.
paragraph. That being said, that kind of relates to, like, vaguely, we were there and then we talked about coding. But my next question for y'all is, like, what's your favorite non-D&D tabletop RPG, and like, why is it your favorite?
Probably The Witcher, because of things I've already stated. I love the magic system, and I love Witchers, and I love the world, and I love Legends. They're the best monsters. Fight me.
it's for me, it's weird because I actually, as much as I talk about a lot of different systems, I haven't played a whole lot of them. I spent like 2 years running Pathfinder, about 5 years running 5e and learning the shit out of it, a little bit of like Dark Heresy and things like that, and now the Forged in the Dark stuff. And it's like, I don't think that I have a favorite system so far, but I don't know if I ever will, because there are parts of each that I really like. Like, it's the weirdest thing to say, and it makes me sound like an accountant, but I love the grammar in 5e. I spent about 2 years making 2 full classes, each with 3 subclasses, and about 20 subclasses for everything else. And I realized like how difficult it is to make all of the moving parts play with one another. But the fact that if a player has a clarity question, I can go, what does the spell say? And as much as it's like kind of a meme to say that, it will answer it most of the time, and it will just be like, okay, so it said a hostile creature or a target or a creature or object, and it's just little plug and play grammar like that I'm just like, watch me tear apart 5e on a lot of other things, but like that is done really, really well on it. Whereas stuff like Forged in the Dark is very flexible and very kind of like, things matter, but you can accordion the narrative accordingly, which is why it's been so friendly with reskins for sci-fi or like industrial punk, pseudo horror, gothic stuff, or an Animorphs hack, because so much of it is just like success, mixed success, not compartmentalizing play into downtime versus the mission, and it just provides a very good scaffolding. So like my fence city answer is that I don't have a specific one, but I will have like, you know, if I'm looking at a car, I'm like, oh yeah, no, the carburetor on this one is blah, 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 and like all of these sorts of things. I don't know cars, but yeah.
Me neither.
I'm like, that's a car part. Like halfway into the sentence, I was just like, you picked the wrong metaphor, jackass, because you don't actually know. I'm like, the tires on this one are just like head ass. Like, yeah.
I wouldn't have known had you not said that you
Yeah,
don't.
I don't know anything about. I don't even know how to drive.
Me neither. I don't have a
Can't
license.
drive.
Yeah. All right, in good company. Awesome. But yeah, that's me.
Yeah, Joe, Rue, you got a favorite non-D&D game?
I'm kind of digging Call of Cthulhu right now. The whole your skills set your DC, I think is something really, really cool. And also not to do another completely shameless self-promo, but I'm actually working on my own tabletop RPG that takes place in a restaurant. And basically
Oh yeah, you were talking about this.
the players are all employees at a restaurant, and the GM is like the floor manager, essentially, trying to make sure that everything like goes smoothly. And it's
That's
part
amazing.
tabletop,
That's really
but it's
cool,
also part
actually.
board game.
Oh,
Thank you. And
that's
I
such a
wanna
good idea.
and it's got concepts like there's rush hour, and there's a couple of different like job histories you can have to influence your skills. And there's 4 skills, and it's stuff like cross training, composure, 2 other ones that I can't remember. But it's your ability to work under pressure, your ability to navigate through crowds, your ability to do others' jobs, and your ability to like customer service, your ability to like increase customers' patience and happiness and make sure that they're not like rude. And it essentially there's random chances that happen like throughout every shift, like a rush hour or like a party of 12 with no reservation, which as a former host, if you do that, I will destroy you. Don't do that. If you have a party of 5 or more and you don't have a reservation, eat at home.
Especially nowadays.
Especially
Yeah.
nowadays,
Yeah,
just eat at home.
Yeah.
Just
Take
stay
out.
home.
That's such a cool concept, though, and I like
Thank
like
you.
you were saying that. I'm curious. Do you know any of like fenced forests work, like Dish Pit Witches or anything like that? There's some
That
stuff.
sounds really cool.
It's really good.
There's a bunch of stuff from the indie scene, like Stew Pot, which is by I believe it's Takuma. I forget their last name, but there's Stew Pot, which makes like culinary interactions a big part of the gameplay. There is Dish Pit Witches, which is kind of like similar to the concept that you're talking about, but it's kind of more backroom, like the kitchen sort of stuff. But yeah, I like that a lot. Is the board game aspect like the layout of the restaurant and that sort of stuff, or like?
Yeah, there's a couple of different layouts you can choose from, anywhere from like there's 3 different levels. There's fast food, there's family, and then there's formal. And you can add different things, like you can have a patio, or you can have live music, you can have and the restaurant that I worked at, which is what gave me the inspiration for it, we had 2 restaurants in one. We essentially had like a formal restaurant that was attached onto this like sort of bar area with live music, and there's like the lounge room and then like the bar like further in the back. But both of them were served by the same kitchen. And so if you're like a food runner, if you're a busser, you're usually serving both areas, while the servers will only stick to just one. And so if you're playing like a food runner, then you're going to have more duties, and if you're playing a server in that kind of area, you're going to have like less duties. But you can't you can't do cross training. So if you're a server in the fancy area and you see someone struggling in the bar, you can't go and help them because that's like not your area and you'll get in trouble for it. And this one is focusing mostly on front of house. All of the cooks and stuff are supposed to be NPCs, and sort of their actions are designated by like the random chance cards.
That's
I want that.
Do you have a name for this yet? Because this, like,
Right
it's a hell of a show. What do you call it?
Thank you. Right now it's called Tabletop Restaurant, but I want to call it like Table for Six or some shit like that. And it's been my favorite project that I've been working on, kind of keeping on like the down low, because I want to make it more of like a personal thing that I. It wasn't intended that I would like release it. It was something that I was making for myself. And then I got really into the tabletop community, and I was like, maybe I will put this out. But it's one of my favorite projects because it came to me literally in like an astral projection, like halfway through my shift. Because at the restaurant that I worked at, I did pretty much everything except for like cook. But I started out as a runner and busser, which is the most overworked and underappreciated part of any restaurant staff, and I'll die on this hill. and I was literally in the middle of my shift with my huge tub of dishes, like rushing, and I like blacked out, and I just went into this like alternate reality where I was not an actual busser, but I was a player who was playing a busser in this restaurant tabletop game, and my whole shift was part of this like board game roleplay experience. And then like I snapped back, and not a second had passed, and I stopped dead in my tracks, and I was like, I need to write this down. And I wrote down everything that I could remember, and I've been expanding on this since. And it's literally like a fever pitch that I'm trying to make like into an actual thing. But the
Oh my
more that I
God,
get to a concrete idea, the more excited that I am about it.
That's fucking amazing.
It sounds so cool.
Dissociation in the service industry is about standard, so yeah, that tracks.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
Thank you. Yeah,
So good.
the 4 skills, I have my document up now. The 4 skills are composure, customer service, coordination, and cross training. And depending on your job experience, you have 2 of them are low and 2 of them are high. And whatever your skill is, like under high schooler, you get nervous, which is low composure and coordination, but also eager to please because it's your first job. So high cross training and customer service because you want to do everything and be nice to everyone, but you're real nervous all the time. And then for like, I have one that's called Clint Eastwood from Gran Torino or some shit. And
that tracks.
And your perks for it is jaded and self-assured, which gives you low cross training and customer service, but high coordination and composure. And there's 6 in total, and that's basically like the class system. And there's like menu, and there's like stress, and there's like the rush hour, which gets like less and less strenuous the more days that you go past. And the goal of it is essentially you try to play through the month and make your rent at the end of the month.
Oh, good.
Yo.
Capitalism in my tabletop.
It's very like iHunt, and I dig it. Also, I am gonna tell like Nick Masick, who is like Unconquered, he's his head of it. He's been a chef for about 14 years and like has war stories from the kitchen. And I was the moment that you said Clint Eastwood, I'm like immediately got the just kind of like sitting there and like and just the like could not be like unflappable, like
too old for this shit, too cool for this shit. Like, I really want to collaborate with more people who have like worked in restaurants, because I've only worked in 2, so I only have 2 perspectives, and I want to get like more broad, because I want it to be like you play this and you actually have a good idea of the hell that it is to work in a restaurant, but also it's more fun. Because I don't want it to be like the original Monopoly where it just reminded you of how bad everything was. I want it to be like, it's kind of a romanticized restaurant, the way that like Amelie presents coffee shops to be.
Yeah, if you want coffee shop or food truck experience, I have both of those, which are fun.
I've got that high school perspective if you need it, but it sounds like you've nailed it.
Yeah. Also, Joe.
Yeah.
You have to add a Waffle House as a pocket dimension in this TTRPG.
Given that I am literally like from Georgia, I think it'd be a crime if I didn't add in a Waffle House. Like it at least a reference to it. I think
not
a
Waffle House. The Waffle House.
The Waffle House. There is
that everyone is connected to.
The Euclidean like platonic ideal of a Waffle House.
No, just all Waffle Houses are connected. If you go through the back, you actually end up in the central Waffle House, and you can get across the country that way.
Yeah. I've never been to a
Magnus
Waffle
Archives.
Waffle House is actually a inside joke between like the Mousecapades cast, so I think it's so funny that you brought that up.
Yeah, because we were talking about it.
It's been like the main conversation point for like the past 2 weeks, and I love that it's ongoing because I love Waffle House. I rep the South so hard, no matter how crappy it is. I'm like, there's a couple of good things, and one of them is Waffle House. The other one's the World of Coke.
World of Coke?
Like the drug or like the drink?
No, the World of Coca-Cola. Its home is in Atlanta, which I am the only bitch from a big city who actually likes my big city. I genuinely think that Atlanta is a fantastic place.
I want
I'm
to
from
live
a
there.
big city and I like it too. But it's a Swedish big city, so it's not very big.
Swedish big cities are just cool, like in general.
Thank you.
Hmm.
We're proud of our puns too.
Your
So that's
puns?
good. Good puns. TTRPGs, that's what we're talking about. Sorry.
I was gonna ask Dar, do you have? I didn't want to like get in the way or anything. Is there anything you want to ask about? Given that it's your show, I don't want to step on any toes.
It's my show and I'll do what I want. I completely forgot what we had started with to begin with. I'm so enamored with Joe's cool thing. Yeah, I can do another question from my short list of questions I wrote almost a year ago. Okay, so I know Sophia talked about this literally during their introduction, but where do you like to take your inspirations for either your stories as a DM or like your inspirations for characters? Like, where do you get inspired for your stuff?
I'm gay and I make tieflings.
Yeah.
That
That's
was
a
all I
t-shirt.
could.
That's a t-shirt.
I didn't. What did you
It's
say
still
about
wait,
tieflings?
wait. It is I drink and I know things, but it's I'm gay and I make tieflings. Done. Market
We
it.
open up a merch store
Mwah.
just for that t-shirt.
A Heroes Without Limits merch store.
It's just the one t-shirt.
It's just
Yeah.
one t-shirt.
We only sell one shirt, so you got to get there first.
Yeah, exactly. And when it's gone, it's gone.
And it's
just
mine.
it's literally one shirt.
It's just
One singular. And it's
Man,
mine.
I don't know how I can top I'm gay and I make tieflings.
Sorry.
I think that was more concise than anything that I could have thrown out.
to be fair,
Like, yeah,
Joe,
that sums it up.
you said the same thing when I had you on a couple months ago. Like, I'm gay and I make tiefling.
Joe and I have one brain cell.
When I was on the show last, I think I had 15. I have upwards of like 30 tiefling characters now.
Good.
On the first month of quarantine, I challenged myself to make one a day, and I did.
I still want to
Sounds
see all
good.
your tieflings because you were talking about them on Twitter, and I want to see them. When we were doing prep for Mousecapades, like we were talking about characters we were building, and I came into the chat, and someone had already mentioned that they were thinking about making a tiefling, and so I was like, oh, okay, fine, I won't make a tiefling. So I made a drow instead, and then no one made a tiefling in the end, and I was like, no tieflings. There are no tieflings.
How do we know which character's the gay one?
Oh, it was obvious.
You just watch the rest of the show. That's it.
Ari's
Yeah.
character was the most powerful gay energy I'd ever experienced.
Very ironic because his character is an Asimar, so it's kind of the opposite of a tiefling.
Yeah.
Same energy.
Same energy.
Man, love Joelle.
I don't know what's going on in chat, but I do like the sentence Perkins wishes he had the creed of the Waffle House. That's our second shirt.
I
We
will
make
fight
t-shirts.
Chris Perkins in an Iron Chef design off.
I'm mad at Wizards right now. I'm not allowed
Oh,
to
too.
talk about it.
Oh
because
yes.
Curse of Strahd is very near
Bad.
and dear to my heart in terms of how much I hate the racism in it because I'm Romani. And they
Yep.
keep releasing it and being like, pay money for this racist book again. And I'm like, would you
It's
like
the
to
fact-
see a knife?
Don't think a will. Don't think a will. Well, I guess I should answer the question first, but I am entirely about like the chronicles of like being the king killer, like to try and be the king killer of D&D, and how like I want to kill Vancy and Magic dead. But to the question of where you get your inspiration for stories, I make them modularly, honestly. because I get backgrounds from my players, and then I'm like, okay, that's potential NPC. My plot hooks are all emotionally related to their drives, because the last thing that you want is a plot hook that you come up with that actually none of the characters would be interested in, and then you have to go, okay, I have to come up with a reason for them to do something else or change it or something like that. And then from there, there's in my prep notes, I have 3 things that can happen next. And then I just basically fill out steps 1 and 2 of the next mini quest. And then what happens based off of those choices made during those sessions is I expand whatever plot hook they chose another 2 steps, and then make some notes off of kind of the side potential branches for future quests. So it's a lot of my stuff is fuck the corrupt government and capitalism. And that's a big kind of my homebrew world is going through an industrial revolution where alchemy is enabling people who don't have the resources to learn magic to provide for themselves. And a lot of the elder races have magic for a very long time, but have hoarded it because magic effectively equals wealth, because you can make a lot from a very little. And so that dynamic is very much at play, because people in power don't want people with less power to have more power, and that sort of stuff. But once it gets more specific than that, it's very player driven based off of that.
That sounds really fun.
Yeah.
Vince, I want you to DM for me.
We can
Okay,
we can make it happen.
It's a really good way to do your DM notes too. I always struggle with that, and
DM
pretty
notes,
much
what's
every game that I ran, I feel like I haven't been able to guess what the players are going to do next, and so I try to prepare for everything. But having the top 3 things is really, really good. I'm gonna have to start using that.
I do a. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
No, please.
It's Canadian gridlock. On the note of the next thing, keeping it from happening next, what it also keeps from happening is if the players don't do what you expect, you don't get salty because you spent 8 hours on the thing that you were hoping that they would do. So if you just have a couple of notes, then you're oh, they didn't do the thing. Oh well, and that sort of thing. But sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Just about DM notes and how I don't know how to do them. This is a total of 1 year of DM notes, which also includes in session and initiative counts and damage and all of that. So I don't do them.
Oh.
And that's all I remember. 20 consequences. That's my notes.
I
That's
love
so
the very
powerful.
especially after coming back after a good couple of weeks. There's a meme that circulates every now and then, and it's well, according to my last notes, we 13 gold, lady with the red hair, don't trust elf, rats and sewer, fireplace.
Yeah, that's
Good
correct.
Notes. Good notes.
I take really extensive notes while playing. Not so extensive while DMing, but I take really extensive notes while playing. But
Brain cell.
Joe and I are actually one entity.
We spent too much time together. Now we're the same person.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
You're quantum entangled.
Yeah.
You just move from one place, the other one just kind of.
When we don't have Mascapades anymore, I don't know what I'm gonna do because the other half of my brain cells is not gonna be here all the time. But because I play tested my system with my roommates, because we all live in a 7-person house, and I had meticulously thought out every clue that I had put into the statement. and I had like gold points for all of those clues, and instead of going to the places in question, which I figured they would do, they were like, nah, we have a computer. I'm going to Google this instead. I'm not going to the library. I'm going to Google it. And I was like, oh, that didn't occur to me. You're right. You can just use the computer. This is fair.
You mean you want to pass up the opportunity of the iconic horror movie protagonist searching up the information in a library scene?
Yeah.
It was
I went right there. The microfiche.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
I've got the library archive ready. And they were like, nah, I'm going to Google it.
That's when you just shut down the internet. You're like, actually, you have the
Internet's
whole
closed.
library built, right?
Physically,
Terrible.
I built a model.
Yeah, it's like, now y'all are going to the library.
Just can't find it on Google. I don't know. You didn't roll high enough on Google, a skill that you don't have.
Investigation in the
roll to
modern setting
Google.
is just Google.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
A couple of the classes actually do have bonuses to using technology based off of their fear's innate ability to influence technology, because the web and the spiral canonically have like technological aspects, so those two classes get tech bonuses and everyone else doesn't, so everyone else is like plonk 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 like the Pusheen using the keyboard.
the hunt and peck.
Yeah.
Has anyone here watched any of Dimension 20 stuff, and specifically the Unsleeping City?
I've seen the first season of Fantasy High.
I watched The Unsleeping City about halfway through.
It
I don't know what it is.
It's basically modern magic New York City. There is like they're dreaming, there is mundane New York City, and then there is the Unsleeping City, which the Umbral Arcana hides from the average person. And they're brilliant. I adore that show, but it also shows that like I love Brendan Lee Mulligan, and every time that he puts D&D into a setting that is not high fantasy, it becomes very, very apparent that like D&D is not very good at things that are not high fantasy, and I stab things and get rich.
Yeah.
But that being said, it's probably my favorite setting, and both the Unsleeping City, New York City, and Calorum from A Crown of Candy, I would buy the shit out of a settings book, which Calorum is Candyland Game of Thrones. It's food people. And
Awesome.
just as bloody and political as Game of Thrones. But like, yeah, the whole thing about like Google being a thing of just like, or I could do this, is like that renders half of the skills in this game completely irrelevant. It's like, I make a stealth check in New York. You succeed. No one cares. Like,
No one is looking.
yeah, exactly.
What are we gonna do with this glowing magical artifact? Bring it on the subway? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite
Absolutely.
literally, yes. Next question.
Like, if you're not being belligerent, you do whatever you want on the New York subway.
That's a
Anorian
cool
has
disco ball, dude.
For those who have now heard, because Anorian has claimed in chat that I sound like Brendan Lee Mulligan and I talk like him, which there's like two people who have said that, which I take as a compliment, but like it's weird and I'm like, confirm, deny, yes, I'm not sure.
It's
As
better
someone
than
who is
Oh.
hardly hearing, I cannot confirm or deny anything. I have to step out of this one. I'm sorry.
Entirely fair. Entirely fair.
I don't know who that person is, so
I'm just bad at IDing voices, so I don't know.
It's better than the fact that in high school I look indistinguishable from Talos and Jaffe in high school.
That's
And there's a
powerful,
blog.
though.
No, it's bad. There's a blog
Oh, no.
on Tumblr that posts like old pictures of Taliesin every day, and multiple times people have DM'd them to me and been like, "Is this you?" And every time I have to be like, "No."
Oh.
1 second, I
Just-
can probably find an example.
Said no. While you look for your example, I'm gonna loop back around to the question because I asked it because my way for coming up with things is very good, I think. Which is I try to come up with an arc name that I think is funny, and then figure it out from there.
Arc name?
And that's like a name for the arc that my players are going through. Like Puppet King was not funny, but it was the first arc. Currently, we're going through Colts and Costco's, and I'm very excited. And I haven't figured out how it works.
I love the sound of Colts and Costco's.
Mm.
It's very close to what you think. I don't think my friends are in chat, so it's fine. But like that's how I do my notes. It's just like here's a very general thing that I think sounds fun, and then it goes downhill from there.
For the players.
Mostly for me, because I don't plan well.
That's a mood.
I mean, as someone who also has ADHD, I have frequently said, oh, also Sophia, you have ADHD. I have frequently said that my Hero Academia superpower is that I can do anything perfectly accidentally, and so that technique is honestly like, if that makes you better, sometimes it's just like, if you fall ass backwards into something and figure it out from there and get a better story, then like the whole kind of thing about like a lot of notes online for ADHD people will be like, here's how to torture yourself into planning like a neurotypical person. And it's just like, or I could do this thing that gets better results, but it tends to stress people out because there isn't like a timeline of I have this work done by this, I have this work done by this. So that sounds awesome, frankly. And if it works for you, go right ahead.
Yes. I like kind of spaced out for a second. I'm sorry.
I can see it. I can definitely see it, Rue. Like
that. Wow.
It's bad.
Is the top one Talisman?
Yes.
Okay.
The one in the Slytherin scarf is Taliesin.
For those of you at home, you'll have to watch the after show on Twitter to determine what we are looking at.
I posted the link in chat.
Okay, all right.
We were just going to talk about something that the viewers can't see.
I still think that's super powerful, though. Like you really committed, and I respect that.
It wasn't intentional. We were just both the same kind of baby goth.
I wish I was a baby goth. I wasn't.
I didn't get the chance to be a baby goth. That came on around like age 15-ish or so.
Nice.
So, I was just an anime kid, which I say is worse.
I was a manga kid.
We would have been friends.
Yeah. I would have given you spoilers. No, I wouldn't. I hate spoilers.
I don't think it would have mattered because, like, I liked anime, but I didn't have the patience to watch it. So I would just read the wiki pages.
That's fair.
Yep.
Manga was good for me because it was like 19 pages, and I can definitely hold my attention for that long. Sorry, Joe, you were saying something.
No, I was just agreeing with you guys.
Okay. Also, just the thing about naming your arcs, and that's kind of not exactly what I do, but like I think of a theme, and the theme for Twilight Grove, this arc is basically a road trip to a dragon.
Everyone get in the van. We're gonna go see a dragon.
Yeah. And now it's basically pirates.
Road trip and pirates are good themes. I like them.
And they're not gonna reach the dragon. It's just not happening this arc. Maybe next arc. Yeah. Oh yeah. Also, where you get inspiration, I forgot. I didn't say anything about that. Listen to Lore Podcast. Lore Podcast is fucking amazing. And episode 21 called Adrift. They're in the intro, or like 4 or 5 minutes in, the guy talks about a ship that just drifts by a whaler ship, and the crew just goes on, and like there's no one on deck, and then they go in and they see, oh, the crew is frozen solid. And then they never saw that ship again.
Shit,
I
dude.
fucking love that shit. It's so cool. And I just threw that in my game.
Yeah, I kind of stuff like that. 100%. History podcasts are really, really good inspiration. It's just kind of, Sophia, you talking about this reminded me of the fact that I'll literally like accidentally mad lib my way into an idea for a monster, and then the entire arc is based around me working my way towards them getting to encounter the monster. Like there was one I came up with called a Scribblegeist that is a psychic manifestation of a child's drawing brought to life. And it's basically like a kind of like your classic imaginary friend, like wants to protect the kid, but it's also, it eats emotions. It had a couple of cool things, like as a bonus action, it could turn 2D or 3D, or you could save it, and if you failed, it would turn you into a drawing. And like while you're 2D, you can't attack things that are 3D. And I was just kind of like, drawing monster. And then I was like, how do I get to this place? And that is kind of half of my like structure for quests in general. There was, if you've seen me on Twitter, you've seen the math skeleton that I accidentally came up with.
My personal nightmare.
Yeah. And just kind of like weird shit that I'm just like, okay, let's, how do we get here? And then that becomes the next like 8 sessions.
It's funny that you call your creature a Scribblegeist, because the more like the dragon, not exactly like the BBEG of Mousecapades, is called Hellgeist, and it's a monster that I came up with and then kind of had on the back burner for a while. And then when I was making Mousecapades, I was like, I can totally throw this thing in, and I did, and then I pulled all the strings to like make it connect, and it's one of like the scariest things that I've ever made as far as like
love
D&D
it.
monsters goes. Oh my god, it's super fucked up as a creature. It got 2 different phases to it, and if you go in and out of the phases, it can technically have like infinite health. So if you keep like doing the fight like in like the wrong manner, essentially, like you can end up trapped in it forever.
We almost did that.
You almost did, but you didn't.
We thought we really had a good idea. We were like, yeah, we're gonna blow it up from the inside. Thankfully, we didn't try that.
Yeah, it has oil form, and it has fire form, and the fire form only begins if someone like casts a fire spell at it while it's in its oil form, and at that point its health changes, its ability changes, and its AC changes. And if it goes from the fire form back into the oil form after taking enough damage, the oil form has the same amount of health because it's like a new health bar. And if you get the oil form down to like 20% health and then hit it with a fire spell, it goes into the fire form with all of its health back. And then you have to whittle that back down until it takes enough damage to go back down into the oil form, at which point it'll have, its full oil health bar back. And so you have to make sure to not hit it with fire, not get fire close to it. And there's one character who's actually going to be assisting it, and if you take too long, we'll start casting fire spells in order to like make the fight go on longer. And if it's in its fire form and it gets hit with fire damage, it'll heal from it, but cold damage does double, so that's the quickest way to take it out. And that's pretty much exactly what the players did. We had a sorcerer with Ray of Frost, and that was it.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
I had a lot of fun making it. It's crazy as a creature.
It's so interesting to hear like the ideas here that quite frankly are like more creative and off the wall and strange than most of the stuff that you'll find in like a large, like a printed like Wizards of the Coast book. And it's kind of one of those things that, like, for those aspiring designers who are watching this show, the fact that you are not making 50K a year making D&D stuff or homebrew stuff does not mean that you are not as good of a designer as the people who are making this as their full-time living. You can and possibly are just as good as the people at Wizards of the Coast, and you should take that as encouragement and make awesome shit.
Also, you deserve that $50,000.
Yes.
Wizards should pay you, but
They
don't
should.
work for them because they're shit.
Yes. Here comes the fun segment on Hero Sheets that I'm introducing. It's called Fuck Wizards of the Coast. Everyone's got a problem with them. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, fire Mike Merles fucking yesterday, last year.
Fire Ryan Black.
I will go last on this one, as I will leave.
I mean,
Do you have an itemized list of 30 years of agreement?
Oh, I don't. We haven't talked too much, Joe. But I gotta rant. I can. It's more like a soliloquy.
I don't even think I have any like personal qualms. I don't think I got involved enough to have any like personal beef. But like we all know what they did. Fuck Wizards.
I have,
or rather, what they didn't do.
I have a long list of grievances with Wizards.
Just pin them to the front of like the Seattle offices, like Martin Luther.
Yes.
These are my 99 theses for why you're a bitch.
Could you imagine if that's what call-out posts were actually? Like, you just went to someone's house and you stapled everything they did wrong to their door?
Fucking please do that shit.
I wish I could.
Man.
Outstanding.
God.
I'm so close to the Wizards office, I could drive there in about 5 hours.
I used to live like
5 hours
downtown.
is close to you? I mean, yeah, you're American, yeah.
Yes.
I'm from California. It takes.
Oh, you can pick me up on the way.
Well, I live in Oregon.
You couldn't.
But
Just
no,
slide up like, get in. We're vandalizing the Wizards office. Like,
Getting nerds.
yeah, exactly.
Get in, nerds.
Good. I'm in
It's
New
like-
Mexico. I'll take on the way. Get a nerd.
Sweet.
Oh my
Get in,
Have you
everyone
picked
in
me up? I'm
nerds.
just,
we're spray painting
in
Fire
Sweden.
Mike Merles and Black Lives Matter on the Wizards of the Coast
Yeah.
building.
We just all meet up in front of their office, same day, same time, and we just go to town. We go to work.
Yeah. And we also drag out all the leadership because they also all suck and replace them with Black Indigenous people of color.
And some women and non-binary people.
Yes.
Ideally.
Yes.
I think
Yes.
we've got this plan down pat. Time to execute it,
Just gotta pick a day.
right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to schedule with my managers to see when I can get off. Fucking waiting for me a few months.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't
As
have
long as
anything
it's-
else to do, so
As long as it's like before midterms or after finals, I'll be okay.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Pick a nice like week 4.
Yeah,
Week
that should be
4.
okay.
Yeah. Also,
Yeah, if-
about just fuck Wizards and D&D right now, I really need to switch systems for Twilight Grove, and I
Have
really
you-
need to find a system that's nice.
Have you taken a look at Quest?
I haven't, because I haven't had the money to do
If
that.
I have a PDF of it. Remind me later, and I can send you the PDF if you want. Because the other stream that I'm a part of is switching to Quest for our campaign, and it's really like easy to get the hang of. I would say it's a really simple transition. It is really pared down compared to D&D. So if you like the mechanics of D&D, it's a lot simpler. But if you just like the D20 and like the high fantasy reaches of D&D, Quest is pretty good.
I've seen like how the dice system works, and I fucking love that. Like the first time I saw it, I was like, "Oh, I can make like a Bloodborne mechanic with this." Like in Bloodborne, when and also Dark Souls, like when someone attack you, you can parry them or riposte them, and just if like if you get attacked and the enemy rolls like a what is it, 5, 4, 3, and 2, you can like um, uh, just riposte that and deal massive damage to them.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I'd love to do that shit. And I'm probably gonna hack Quest. Because I want
always
to make my
recommend.
own system as well.
Hell yeah, make your own
I'm
system. No, I'm super on board with making your own system if nothing you can find is working for you. Like for my home game right now, we all kind of agreed that like we're not going to continue playing D&D as it is because we already put a whole lot of homebrew into it. So when we get back, we're pretty much going to get together and tear all of the rules apart and add in whatever we want and make our own like Frankenstein D&D system that we all like actually want to do instead of feeling bogged down by the rules. But for like for anything of trying to change like the system that you use when you're not used to a lot of systems, I always recommend something universal like Fate. Systems like Besm, I think it's called, and also GURPS, which is I think generic universal role playing system. Those are really good for getting into something that isn't D&D for the first time because they're super duper easy to build on, really easy to like get the hang of, and they really allow you to do like anything. So it's like very imagination based, and then you can sort of decide like, oh, okay, like I'm calling to like swim a whole lot in my games, so like maybe I'll make swim just like a skill on its own, and then you can sort of build it based off of like what you actually play instead of trying to squeeze what you play into like maybe like a hole that doesn't exactly fit.
Yeah, trying to ram D&D into something it's not meant to do is too much work, and it's not worth it. And don't do it because it's D&D, and don't play D&D. It sucks.
Yeah, I can totally self-promo again if y'all don't mind, because I am also working on a Tabletop Academy Discord server, where if anyone is interested in looking for something that is not a D&D system and is also not a Pathfinder system, I've been getting a bunch of GMs together of other things like the Star Wars and like Call of Cthulhu, to essentially not just run games, but like specifically for new players to teach. And anyone who's interested in learning to play or learning to run a game themselves, I want it to be just like a place of that. And
Yes,
for the
please.
DMs, like if their groups want to stream, they can stream on like their own service. If they just want to play private, they can do that. Like I just want to host a place where people willing to teach can meet people willing to learn. So hopefully that should also be on my Twitter in the next couple of days, perhaps weeks.
Yeah, I'm excited for that.
Sounds so cool.
I'm very
Thank
excited
you.
for that because I'm involved. Yeah.
Yeah, I got Rue involved early on. I was like, "Do you wanna be a moderator for this thing that I'm working on?"
Yeah, I think almost all of my systems are horror based that I'm signed up for.
Man, I love horror systems. I'll jump straight into Cosmic Horror any day, which is circling back to the question where I get all my inspiration from. I love Cosmic Horror. It's yeah, I'm incorporating the far realms currently into my campaign, and I've actually started planning already how that campaign is going to end, and it's essentially they have to put everyone to sleep to prevent them from being like consumed by this reality eater who will only eat you if you notice it when it's like in your presence. And so the way to not notice something is by being asleep. And I've been sprinkling a little bit of far realm stuff in there, and I've been reading a lot of not like Lovecraft books, but like the mythos, since it's an open universe thing. I like finding things that are written in that universe, but not by Lovecraft.
Mm.
And it's actually really interesting what people will come up with when you move away from all the racist parts of it.
If you
It's
dig
amazing
that,
how creative you can be without being racist. It's you imagine more people do it.
and in fact, you will make better stuff. In fact, when you don't have that crutch to fall on, or not crutch, that crappy technique making up for quality word
Bad
I can't come up
personality
with.
trait.
If you have not read them, the Johannes Cabal Necromancer series involves it's a series of novels, involves a lot of that sort of stuff. It's like dark, sardonic humor. And it also made me realize that like the most famous old god is actually like the most boring. Like Cthulhu is like he sleeps, and if he wakes up, we all die. It's like cool, like so he has all of the charisma of like my cousin who is like on unemployment. Like okay, awesome. Like like not enough books about Nyarlathotep. Not enough books about Nyarlathotep. It's freaking
Hard
awesome.
agree. Hard agree.
But yes, anyone who's looking for some reading material, there's some good stuff in there as well.
Mm. Also, if you're looking for some gaming material, just Bloodborne. Just play Bloodborne.
I'm trying, Sophia. I have a PC. I'm waiting so hard for
I'll
this.
help you.
Yeah.
When you get a PS4, I'll help
Yeah.
you with Bloodborne.
Sophia, I'm bad at video games. I own
Describe.
Bloodborne, and I'm real bad at video games, and I love the aesthetic, but I get my ass kicked every time I turn it on.
Yeah, just get up to level 30 and tell me a password, and I'll come and help you. I promise. I want to play it more. It's like when Vince jumps in to help me with Monster Hunter World. I just die in one hit, and he just kills the monster in one hit.
I kill it softly with my song because I am a hunting horn main and will always bring Doot support.
Yeah.
On the topic of like kind of making your own system and things like that, it's weird saying this as someone who my tweet that had the most impressions last month was deconstructing the non-apology that Wizards of the Coast released regarding Orion Black. But one thing that I realized, and the reason kind of that we started the tabletop chop shop hashtag, was that as I don't want to fall into the positivity brigade of being like, only raise up stuff you like. Don't talk about stuff that you don't. Because criticism is, as Frankie Larson, aka Human Houseplant, has said, criticism is an act of love. But if folks, and this is more for like folks watching, more for my fellow cast members here, is that if you're spending all of your time talking about how shitty Wizards of the Coast is and how shitty D&D is, you are unfortunately still spending time talking about D&D. And part of the difficulty of getting away from the gravitational pull that is D&D is partially because of the intentional marketing of D&D as simultaneously with tabletop RPGs. That's kind of why, as kind of like a shameless plug, the Chop Shop hashtag has a number of threads where we're kind of subverting talking about like, okay, this is actually a very specific kind of RPG, but not all RPGs have to be like that, and the one that you want to play might actually fit something else better, or the one that you want to build. And I know that part of, say for instance with Unconquered, with the magic system with that, is that what the hashtag is. So The Tabletop Chop Shop hashtag is a collection. Well, it started as a collection of designers, myself and about 5 others, including Nick Butler, who is making the Tiebreaker RPG, Nicholas Masick, who is the head of Unconquered, C.D. Huanzan, who is the creator of the 99-Cent Chamber of Death, D. Pennyway, who is the creator of Mnemonic, and myself, who I talk about mechanics and stuff. But essentially, what we wanted to do is we wanted a place for all of the people who were tired of asking and waiting for Wizards of the Coast to do the bare minimum and then being like, I guess we'll still play D&D, but try and homebrew this thing out of it because they had nowhere else to go or they didn't know where to look. And we wanted to start an educational archive of not only here are some designers who are doing different things and subverting those things who are of marginalized populations and have these different ideas of it. Like D is the only white person amongst all of us, and D is trans non-binary. And like all of us are from various different marginalized populations. And not only that, but in addition to promoting these other systems, we're also going, we want people to feel competent that they can figure this out, that Wizards of the Coast does not exist in this ivory tower somewhere where they are holding this mystical secret knowledge that allows them to make the only good tabletop RPG and everyone else just has to like maybe muddle along down here. The only reason that they are the norm is because Hasbro makes up 98% literally of board game sales and have for the last 40 years. So while we can't like outspend them, we can start subverting the idea that this is the way that things have to be, because they don't. I have seen things from fellow designers and things from like talking with Joe. Your design for this, your restaurant game that you're making, is far and away more creative and interesting than anything Wizards of the Coast has done in the past several years. And I say that with my chest, 100%, because you are trying to do new things. Here is what I will say, and Chris Perkins and Jeremy Crawford, I know they're big Heroes Without Limits listeners, can take this to the bank. You are trying to do new things. Wizards of the Coast is not, and that is why you will beat them. And everything about the Tabletop Chop Shop hashtag is showing you how. And even more so than beating them is to make the game that realizes your vision and your gameplay and your stories that you want to do, because they don't have to be their stories. This whole 40th anniversary of what was your favorite D&D story? When was D&D there for you? It's like D&D is a brand. D&D was not there for me any more than Kleenex was there for me. Tabletop games may have gotten people through dark times, but those stories are yours and they belong to you and your friends, period, end of sentence. And they don't get to have those because those are yours. They happen to be in D&D, but they do not get limited to that. And you are capable of finding a home for them that does not require allegiance to some billion-dollar corporation.
Hell yeah, dude.
Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah.
With that said, I think this is a really cool place to stop for the month.
That was really powerful.
Yeah, I think that.
Watch the beginning thing twice because
I forgot how to end the show, but if you guys want to go around and talk about where we can find you and remind us what you do, Vince, if you want to go first, since you just were so cool and said so much.
You can find me at Dichotomous Prime on Twitter. You'll find me talking about accessibility, issues of racial equality, and raising up marginalized voices. I am also available to. I am currently looking for someone to fill up a spot that just vacated in my pro game every Sunday, Scum and Villainy. So there is that. I am also available for hire as a consultant, both as a sensitivity reader for portrayal of Caribbean cultures, as well as a consultant on resolving mechanical and narrative dissonance. If your story, you want it to feel a certain way in the story, but the mechanics aren't getting you there, that's my job. That's what I come to, is making it feel how you want it to feel. So get into contact with me. That's what I do. And yeah, other than that, look forward to Mnemonic, A Weaver's Almanac. The Kickstarter starts August 15th.
Wonderful. Joe?
Hey, I am Joe. I almost started doing my Mousecapades outro. I am the cat in charge on Twitter as well as TikTok. You can find me doing cosplays. I talk about tabletop RPGs all the time. I pretty much laid out all of my projects that I've been working on. So keep an eye out for the Mousecapades PDF that you can run for whatever tabletop RPG that you're doing. Keep an eye out for the restaurant one and for any of the various small project games that I'm doing. I'm super relatable on Twitter, and I'm almost at 300 followers. If you would like to help me out there, I am autistic and hard of hearing, so if you want relatable content, because I joke about that all the time, that would be fantastic. And yeah, I think that's it. I technically don't do it professionally, but I do offer services of sensitivity consulting if you're looking to write a hard of hearing character or an autistic character. I have experience in both, as I've been both for my entire life, and that's it.
Rue?
You muted yourself.
I hit the button and that was bad. I'm Brew. I was totally prepared to say things and then I hit the wrong button on my computer and now I'm dead.
Okay,
Joe and
breathe.
I share a brain cell because I'm also autistic and I have ADHD and I'm hard of hearing in that I have an audio processing condition.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we are once again sharing the same brain cell. I am on Twitter as @IlanaKnight13. And mostly on Twitter, I do art commissions for anything but like mostly TTRPG characters. And then I wrote a 10-page basic guide to unpacking the racism in Curse of Strahd from a Romani perspective, and how to take the things that they've done and make them less racist and anti-racist, which is really something I'm really passionate about. And I do sensitivity consulting professionally for Romani cultural issues and anything of that sort, and also my various disabilities and being trans. And then other than that, I'm working on some game jam tabletop stuff that should be out later this August. I'm working on a couple of game jams.
Mention the epilogue, because I forgot.
Oh, yes. Also, I'm in Mousecapades, which Joe DMs, and we've technically finished the campaign itself, but next week on Friday we're having an epilogue and a fireside chat, so you can hear about what happens to our characters after the campaign, and I think we're going to do some like Q&A stuff also, maybe?
Wonderful. Sophia?
Yes. I'm on Twitter at Alsarla. You should be able to see it over there. How it's spelled? It's spelled very weirdly, but it's unique, so you can always find me when you Google it and whatever. I make music for tabletop RPGs and video games as well. It's what I spent 3 years in university for, and I I'm pretty good at it when I actually have the energy to do it. God, I need my ADHD meds. I want them now.
Give them to me. That's a mood. That is such
Yeah.
a mood.
God, I was diagnosed like on the 3rd of July, and I just doing grab hands every day for my meds. I want them.
Yep.
What else do I do? I DM Twilight Grove on this channel, and we will hopefully change systems from D&D soon. I'm gonna look at Quest. I'm gonna look at Cipher. I'm gonna look at I think Bolt RPG. And there was one more. I don't remember. Joe, did you say one?
Yeah, Fate, GURPS, and Besm.
Fates and
Fate, GURPS, and Besm. BESM. It stands for Big Eyes, Small Mouth. We play anime essentially.
That one. No. I played that one. Don't like it. It's not
it's
for
very
me. It's not for me.
universal, but it's meant
very
for
cool,
anime.
but
But
it's not for me.
yeah.
But yeah, I do stuff. Follow me at on Twitter. Also, fucking follow Joe. Joe, it's a fucking crime that they don't have more than 300 followers. They should have 3,000.
It's true.
God.
It's true.
3 million.
Yes.
I'm very
Follow all
funny.
of us, by the way. Follow all of us.
Oh yeah, these are some
That's me.
cool group of people here.
I guess it's my turn. I've been your host, Daria. You can follow me on Twitter at simply Adoron. I mostly retweet all of the cool things that these folks are doing, along with things that make me smile or things that make me stressed. And what's the outro? Thank you to our lovely producer Nova, because we literally couldn't have done this without them. Amazing, wonderful. Thank you so much, Nova. Join our Discord server if you haven't already. It's where a lot of cool people hang out and talk about a lot of cool stuff, and it's also where I collect most of my questions from. I think that's it. That's it. Safe travels, and we'll see you next month, adventurers. Bye.